Check.
Today is going to be an easy video. There is no script, there is no series, there is no expectation. I finally somehow made it through Plicktober without snapping, and now I want to take it easy. So because of that, we're here today. I have my tea, and we're going to be doing a Q&A. So I asked you guys some questions and got a whole bunch of them, and I'm also going to be using questions from the last time I asked her Star Wars related questions, so let's go ahead and get into those today. So the first question we have today is from Samuel Antonio Castillo Mezda, who was asking if I watched like the 2D animation Clone Wars series, and yeah, I have. Like when I was a kid, my family actually got this on DVD around when my brother was first born, so I was about like 5, 6 at the time, and I would watch this shit and like pretend in my room and like play, pretending to be like Anakin Skywalker. And, you know, I'd have, like, toys for this kind of shit. I didn't treat them well, because, I mean, like, I was a kid playing with toys, so they fulfilled their purpose as toys, so if I could find them anywhere, they're probably really beat up. But yeah, I watched this stuff, and I really liked it. The two things that really stuck out to me was General Grievous, and of course that duel between Asajj Ventress and Anakin Skywalker on that rainy ancient temple. Now, the next question comes from Jacob Games, asking what would a Star Wars first-person shooter look like to you? And the answer for that is actually really simple. It would just be Star Wars Battlefront 2, not that one, this one right here. Of course, like if you want me to give an original concept or an original idea, I would probably have like a Far Cry type situation where you're like a rebel stranded somewhere and you're fighting off the Empire on this like desolate planet. So it'd probably be a lot of big open wilderness, different blasters that are balanced like different pistols, snipers, SMGs, that kind of stuff. Put the sensibilities of how games balance modern weapons and just kind of apply that to Star Wars, and yeah, just go around ambushing stormtroopers. That would be pretty fun to me. Probably, I guess, the closest thing I could imagine in terms of how this would work with like barter functions with other like people living on the planet, probably like Far Cry 5. It would probably be like something like Far Cry 5. Now we have a pair of questions from Noah216 and despacho. Now, Noah's asking what my favorite Star Wars game is, and that is very easily Star Wars Battlefront 2. Not this one, this one. I like it because it's a very good split-screen game. I like it because it allows me to take part in massive scale battles. I love the space combat and the way you're trying to sabotage each other's ships, both inside and outside. I love galactic conquest. I love the whole hero system. The campaign is pretty cool too. But yeah, I like that I can just turn on this game whenever, whether I'm on my own or whether I'm with like friends and family, and I can have like up to 4 people playing with me. It's a very easy pick up and go kind of game. Now, in regards to my least favorite Star Wars movie, I'm not even going to really talk about the sequels because I don't really consider that Star Wars. It's just Disney type of shit, and there's a whole debate and ugly stuff to go in there. I don't hate the sequels by any means, nor do I condone some of the insane behavior people have had dealing with the sequels in the past. But I'm going to consider the, 6 movies as actual Star Wars, because that's how I prefer it, that's how I understand it, and it's my channel and I can do what I want. And out of these 6 real Star Wars movies, my least favorite one would probably be A New Hope. And this is because, George Lucas has always gone on about how, like, Greek tragedy and mythology was a very big point of inspiration for him. And in A New Hope, this kind of shows its head the most. Star Wars didn't really have its own, like, pop culture identity yet, so it really does feel like a generic hero's journey movie, which is fine, but it's the one I always tend to fall asleep to, look at my phone, or switch to something else. Now, in regards to my least favorite Star Wars game, I would probably say the newer Battlefront games. Like, just because split screen is so nerfed, and it's just like, that's the biggest appeal of the originals. So, yeah. Now, the next question is from Obomnium, which is, would you smash or pass Darth Vader? Now, here's the thing, where I know we're talking about Darth Vader, not specifically Anakin Skywalker. And the thing about Darth Vader is that he definitely does not have a dick or balls. He might not even have an asshole. I mean, just take a look at this scene in Revenge of the Sith. You can see the exact moment where the lava starts hitting his privates. And this begs the question, does he have like a synthetic pussy? Is it just like scar tissue down there? I mean, like, worst case scenario, it's just scar tissue and you can't really fuck anything, nor would I want to. Or it's like some weird amalgamation of like synthetic genitals. And I have like nothing against trans people or people that, you know, are into that sort of thing. But like, I would have a very hard time trying to be sexually active with something that's been, you know, switched around and reformed and all that. Like, that's just not what I'm personally into. So for Darth Vader, definitely pass. And that brings us to the end of this column of questions, because it's pretty much just suck-ass Mort being based at the bottom, so yeah, moving on.
On your man, homie. I tried to sneak through the door, man. Can't make it, the shit sucks. Out of my way, son! Door stuck!
Now this next section is, or next question is from Velikov saying Halo 2 or 3? One is destroyed forever. See, this is a tricky question. Because while I like and dislike both of these games probably in equal measure, getting rid of Halo 3 would probably mean either A, ending the franchise with 2, or B, having the franchise be able to take a step in a different direction than what Halo 3 went down. And if I could do that, then absolutely I'd get rid of Halo 3 and try to set up something different. Not that I think Halo 3 is inherently bad, but you know what? Actually, Halo 3 has a really cool system of unlocking. Halo 3 has Forge, Halo 3 has a pretty customizable multiplayer, and the campaign has some pretty good missions. The first half is pretty fucking boring, the weapons sandbox really deviates from the, you know, traditions set by Halo Combat Evolved. But yeah, I guess... but then on the other hand, Halo 2 goes... You know what I'm talking about? And yeah, Halo 2 also has like the dual wielding. It has probably my favorite like aesthetic look in the series, my favorite maps for like multiplayer and campaign in terms of like how they look and feel to like travel through come from Halo 2. But I have to say overall Halo 3 is the better game, so I guess if I got rid of Halo 2, Halo 3 would just become the new Halo 2, so I guess I'm getting rid of Halo 2 and putting Breaking Benjamin into Halo 3. It's a very complicated, this is a good fucking question. I'm really stumped on this one, but yeah, if I had to get rid of one, I guess I'd get rid of Halo 2 and just give them more time to cook with a sequel so they don't have the whole rush development and all that, and then Halo 3 can just become bigger and badder than it already is. Now we got Zyethel asking me what my favorite music is, saying that they need better music to listen to. I really like George Michael, I really like Harry Styles, I really like Joji. Like, I like happy, upbeat stuff or stuff that's so ridiculously depressing that, like, it gives you a good feeling when you listen to it. Anything that the Sega Sound team has touched is pretty freaking good. Listen to a lot of video game soundtracks when I'm working out, like the theme of Dante and theme of Virgil from Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and the theme of Jill with that. When I'm in the car, my brother always puts on Sonic music. And Sonic music is pretty fucking good. I haven't really played a lot of Sonic games, and the few times I have, they seem like really bad games, but the music's really good. But yeah, the gist is I tend to try to listen to really happy stuff because I just want to be happy, so listening to happy music makes me happy, sort of thing, at least momentarily. But yeah, as long as it's not like music that's like, oh, look at me, I'm so sexy, or oh, look at me, I'm so tough, or oh, look at, like, as long as it doesn't like buy into that kind of like sociocultural bullshit and it exists as its own like private entity focusing on a feeling or a story or something very deeply personal, then yes, I enjoy it. So the next question is from Despacho, who's asking my opinion on 5.7 since it seemed like it was dying out but now it's being adopted again and there's more guns for it. I personally think there is a certain application for it at the moment. I think in the future that application will be expanded upon because the reality is that most people are desperate for newer rounds than 9mm with the advent of body armor becoming more and more normalized. And you know, even on a level of the world just generally going crazy as a civilian, it's starting to become apparent that more capacity is better. So if you can get something that you could hold more rounds for than 9mm and still have it be a nice lethal round, not like something like 380 or 32 ACP, then yeah. So I think 5.7 definitely has a place in the future as a sidearm and PDW alternative or definitive round. It's not something we should forget about at the very least. Our next question is again from Jacob's Games and it's about Star Wars again, so here we are. What would a dream Star Wars game look like to you? Okay, a dream Star Wars game would probably have it where you're a Mandalorian crashed in the middle of a Clone Wars like battlefield-ridden planet. You start off with really shitty gear and weapons and you slowly have to find better weapons. You can find ways to upgrade your armor, and by the end of the game, encounters that would have killed you and forced you into stealth become something you can charge right into and fuck shit up. Basically an earned Star Wars power fantasy, more so with guns than lightsabers, because I feel lightsabers have really been, you know, pushed to their like potential in games, but the whole blaster play could still be done better. So yeah, basically a level up system Mandalorian game during the Clone Wars era. So Samuel's asking us another question here is if I have a comfort game that isn't mature rated, like a cutesy platformer. Here's the thing, I didn't grow up with cutesy platformers, I never really got into them. I mean, I played A Hat in Time and I'll have fun with that every now and then, but I don't play it enough for it to be considered a comfort game. Keep in mind, I was 3 years old, barely able to speak, and my game was Halo 1. So from day one, mature games was kind of where it was at for me. I mean, there was a period of time when I got like a little bit older where my parents didn't want me to play anything M-rated, so I had to play something E-rated or T-rated. So there was Infamous, there was Uncharted, basically a lot of games that I only really got into because they were the only things I was allowed to get. So as of right now, a comfort game that isn't, you know, M-rated, I'd probably go with Breath of the Wild, just because I have a lot of good memories with this. Not even playing it, but someone that I used to know really played it a lot of the time, so I'll hear the noises and, you know, the music and the gameplay and see the visuals, and it'll take me back to a time in my life where I was a lot more confident, I was a lot more secure, and while there were still a lot more fucked up things going on, I was at least delusional enough not to really see them, which led to a whole bunch of problems in of itself. But yeah, Breath of the Wild feels comfortable to me because it reminds me of a time where I might have not have been mentally healthy and had been doing damage to myself by being around the person that I mentioned before. However, that sense of delusional comfort, those nice feelings, come back whenever I play Breath of the Wild. And yeah, that's not M-rated, so I'm gonna say Breath of the Wild. Now we got a question from Just Derp asking me what got me into making videos, what still drives me in making videos, and how do I feel about YouTube turning into either video essays or skibbity-bee toilet things, which I don't really know what that is. But let's start getting into this question. In regards to how I started making videos, I realized that the PS4 had a function to record for 15 minutes, and I was like, oh my god, I've always wanted to like make videos where, you know, just about different games. Of course, at the beginning, I was really just a product of what I watched. Well, I wanted to do like no commentary walkthroughs and stuff like that, but it pretty soon became me talking about like my interests and all that kind of things. Like my first video on YouTube isn't the whole Metal Gear Solid 5 video. It's actually a video that I recorded with my MacBook Air, pointing towards the TV in a dark room of me doing a no commentary walkthrough of Halo 1 Combat Evolved. I made that public for a little while, but then a lot of people started disliking it, being like, oh, this is shit quality, and I was like, yeah, that's kind of the point. So I don't know if it's like available for viewing or something like that, but yeah, I started making videos with my then girlfriend who let me use her computer to edit this footage from the PS4. It started off as a one-off joint project, but I wanted to keep on going, and pretty soon it became an outlet for talking about video games and guns, which were things that I would always want to talk about, but no one would ever want to talk about with me, except for a couple rare exceptional people. So the channel really became an outlet for that. Now, of course, like, here I am, I think like four years later at this point. Yeah, I think it's still 4 years. Next year it's going to be 5 years. But yeah, here I am 4 years later. And the reason I'm making videos today is pretty similar to just that. I like having an outlet to talk about the things I find interesting. I had the choice to monetize the channel, and at first I was thinking about that. Like when I first started the channel even, I thought about like Patreons and even talk about it in some of like my first earliest videos. But now I realize like I don't want to monetize this. I don't want to become of like Google's system with this channel here. I just like making videos about stuff I like, and I'll watch my own videos. The fact that other people watch these videos is more of just a bonus to me. But yeah, I've also started to like come to appreciate the amount of interaction I can have with an audience. Like these Q&As are so much fun, which is why I'm doing so many of them. And yeah, now this is just a place that I can, or not now, but it's always been just a place where I can be comfortable and have fun and feel productive. So that's why I keep making videos. In regards to how I feel about the state of YouTube, again, a big chunk of why I don't want to be monetized is because I don't want to become part of either the, oh, let me hold your attention with shorts, let me hold your attention with shorts, just like TikTok, keep you scrolling so you see advertisers, or, you know, have an hour-long video that has like 47 advertisements in it. I mean, I like video essays. I don't really know what Skibbity Bee Toilet is. Like, I've always been disconnected from the zeitgeist, from pulp culture, and from people, honestly. Like, I don't understand people. I don't understand what's cool and what isn't with my own generation, so I don't know how I could ever hope to understand future generations, and that's fine. So Skibbity Bee Toilet can do what it's doing, video essays can do what it's doing. I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing, and yeah, that's kind of how I'm trying to live my life. So the next question is from Flynn de Flinner, who's asking what my opinion is on long cutscenes in games. I don't really have problems with super long cutscenes. It can be pretty engaging on your first playthrough. If games have something like unlockable costumes or wacky stuff that you can use to modify how shit looks, or like model swaps, then cutscenes could be fun on repeat playthroughs. Like Metal Gear Solid 2 has this feature where after you beat the game, you can mess around and do model swaps in certain cutscenes, and sometimes I'll boot Metal Gear Solid 2 up, play VR missions for 10 minutes, and then just fuck around in this cutscene editor, and that's pretty fun. So if there is like some level of interaction with the cutscenes, even better. But yeah, as long as there's a way to skip the cutscenes on repeat playthroughs, then that is totally cool with me. Now we got a question from Chico Bico, who's talking about how do I feel about games being criticized for like short game length as being like lacking content or whatever. And I've talked many times before about how I like shorter, more replayable games. I mean, Chico Bico even brings up Resident Evil 3 Remake. Now, I love all the Resident Evil remakes, including the 2002 one, but Resident Evil 3 Remake is still my favorite one, just because I can pick up and do a playthrough and go for all the different little trophy objectives and 100% this game in a feasible way. I mean, I just finished playing Rule of Rose, and one of my biggest issues with it isn't the fact that it has bad combat, but the fact that the entire third act of the game is stretched out with a bunch of like combat gauntlets. So cutting out like a good, I'd say maybe 35% of the game would have made Rule of Rose so much better. So I am all for short games. I am all for, you know, just more feasible projects. So long as replayability is taken into consideration, and so long as what's there is really good and fun to come back to. If it's made with a short length being in mind, then yeah, it's totally fine in my books. And I agree again with Chico Bico, talking about how like every Game of the Year contender is just a fucking like B-movie disguised as a video game. Like I don't find that shit fun. Like God of War 2018 was okay, but then like the newer one was just way too much of this shit, to the point where people solve puzzles for you. And again, like I'm okay with that being as a feature in like an easy mode, but if you're making a game, you should make a game. And games should be judged by their merits as games. My favorite game of all time is Halo Combat Evolved. Another game I really like is the Metal Gear Solid series. And I like these not because they're movies, but because they are games. First and foremost, they think about their mechanics, visual and audio presentation. They think about multiplayer. They think about balancing. They think about replayability. It's like, that's what I want. I want games. So yeah, I am totally for shorter games. I mean, take Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. It's being remade, it's considered the favorite, and it's a pretty short game. You can play through the entirety of Snake Eater in maybe a day or two. Less. Like you could probably get through it in like under, I don't know, maybe under even like 3 hours if you're playing on an easier difficulty and you just blitz it, skipping the cutscenes. And I feel like this has a lot to do with why people keep coming back to it. Because the pacing is so tight, because there's no filler, padding, or extended sections that are just way too long for the sake of adding something else to the game. So yeah, short games are fucking amazing. Now the last question comes from Leon Wick, who's asking if I've played the Evil Within games, and if so, do I like them? How do they compare to Resident Evil? And I've played the Evil Within 2. I'm not going to talk about 1 because I don't want to talk out of my ass, but I've played the second game, and yeah, I enjoyed it. I made the mistake of playing it on the hardest difficulty and then just got myself cornered into a situation where I got really fucked up as soon as harder enemies started showing up. So yeah, but all in all, it was a pretty good horror experience. If I could explain it comparing to something, I would probably compare it more to what the original Silent Hill was going for. And it's just kind of wrapped up in a Resident Evil type of story where the horrors are technology rather than magic based. But yeah, this is like the original Silent Hill made on the PS4 and with modern day gameplay mechanics. So yeah, I definitely recommend this game to people. I'm not an expert in it. I can't start talking about the sandbox or the full story, but I would definitely be willing to go back and give this another try on an easier difficulty. But yeah, Evil Within 2 is pretty good. I'm not sure about the first game though, but the second game specifically, pretty good. When I first started working on this video, that Evil Within question was the last one, but Kizuma asked 2 questions now. The first one asks, is there a Discord? I don't like Discord. I never got into it. I've never used it. I've never really wanted to use it. If any of you guys remembered that video I made about like why I don't like PC and the event that really kind of spurred all those feelings, you'll remember. Well, you won't remember, but Discord was a part of that introduction to that world, and yeah, I don't really like it. I'm also kind of a fan of degrees of separation, so like I tend to try to avoid most people. I tend to try to avoid, you know, as much human contact as possible, because it's not really one of those things that makes me happy or comfortable. So I like that, you know, I can interact with tons of people through this channel without actually having to like interact with people directly, if you know what I'm saying. So yeah, Discord would kind of kill that sort of vibe, and yeah, I'm just not a fan of that. Now, the next question, and more interesting question, is talking about Far Cry, and which one I think is the best in regards to balancing its combat sandbox and all that, and while Far Cry 4 might be my favorite Far Cry game, I have to say in regards to balancing, Far Cry 3 is probably better because it has less. I used to think of it as a perfect level up system, but then it has that category of weapons with like flare guns and arrows and flamethrowers that don't really fall into any kind of like level up tree. So that kind of ruins it, but for the most part it has a really good progression of weak enemy to strong enemy, weak assault rifle to strongest assault rifle. You know, like pretty much every single thing in that game that has its place in the sandbox is on a spectrum of weak to powerful, and it's very clear and easy to see in Far Cry 3, so because of that I have to give Far Cry 3 the championship medal of having the cleanest sandbox in the series. So that's it, that's the end of our Q&A. This has been a big one, but it's also been a fun one, and I've needed just a fun video to make because not only did I just finish with Blicktober, which is very script heavy and, you know, trying to make everything cohesive and sound intellectual and all that kind of stuff, but I've also been having the hardest time of my life this past month. I've taken on a new job. I'm not really going to talk too much about it because, you know, you don't want to mix YouTube or social media and your work life too much. But if I could give you an idea of what my job is about, I'm basically paid to babysit and fight crackheads for extended periods of time, like upwards of 8 hours. So yeah, that gets exhausting, that gets very tiring. I've had a couple like I wouldn't say traumatic, but experiences that have really taught myself about myself and how I deal with conflict and what I really want out of life. So yeah, it's been a pretty rough time. Rewarding and definitely a good experience, but I've been having a rough time. So yeah, I needed this easier video. Thank you guys for posting your questions. I hope you enjoyed the answers, and I'll see you guys in the next one. This has been Pliskin, over and out.
This is Solid Snake. Hey, subscribe to Pliskin Boy. God damn it.
You heard him.